What is decarboxylation? Do you have to do it? And how do you decarb/activate? My name's Jack. We're gonna dive in here right now. Decarboxylation, also known as decarb, is the process of heating up your cannabis to convert cannabinoids into something else. The most obvious example being THCA into THC, the psychoactive component. If you think about it, the raw flower sitting there needs some source of heat or light to get it. Think of smoking a bowl, joint, or bong. You won't be able to rip it or get high unless you light it. Same principle applies here. It needs some sort of heat added to it. So you take your flower. If you're using the Mason pot kit, you just simply load it up in the Mason pot jar. You can see it right through there. You screw the lid on that has a thermometer right there. Put it in your oven. We recommend 240 degrees for 40 minutes. That will activate your cannabis to give you the most potent batch possible. It's important to note there are also other cannabinoids that decarb at lower or higher temperatures. So if you want to get more dialed in on that, there's some charts you can look at too. But in general, the ones people care about the most are THC and CBD, and that 240 mark will definitely be nice for you there. We also play 220 sometimes for 50 minutes, 230 for 50. I don't recommend going over 250 ever. I've seen people do it, don't recommend it. So that's an active infusion. Now, it's important to note that you do not have to decarb. There's something called a passive infusion. If you remember a moment ago, I mentioned adding heat to something. You can just take your bud, throw it in here, and throw the oil or butter in and infuse it. Since you're infusing, there's still heat involved when you're infusing. So some of the THC will still be released in there, but you might be missing out on some. Now you might be like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want like a less potent batch? The biggest reason being for taste, for terpenes. Terpenes are a little more volatile than a lot of cannabinoids, so they burn off at certain temperatures. And it just depends what you want. Even with the decarb, you're still gonna get that entourage effect in, a video down below on that. But if you don't decarb, you're gonna get more of those terpenes involved in there, especially if your low dose is a good option too. But I know a lot of cannabis chefs that prefer the passive infusion because they're working more on the flavor. But again, if you got the Mason pot jar here, that's the beauty of the silicone sleeve, is it helps maintain that heat, reduce char and burn no matter what method you're using. I personally decarb the vast majority of the time. And I also have another method I've been playing with. Say I'm using an ounce, I'll decarb 21 grams, and then I'll keep 7 and add it to it after. So I'll take the 21 grams decarbed, add the fresh 7 grams in there for like the extra added terpenes, and then I'll infuse it that way. The big thing for us is just always having fun with infusions, changing it up, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So that's just an overall breakdown of decarbing. I do it most of the time. You'll go online and see so many people saying different temperatures, different things, but at the end of the day, the 240 mark, 40 degrees is a nice marker. Play with it. Like I said, do you. And again, the Mason pot has a thermometer to really get it dialed in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot. The most common way to decarb is an oven. You can do it on a stovetop with a Mason pot or a crock pot. You can kind of do like that sous vide style method with it. So there's a lot of different ways, but these principles really apply to any method you're using to heat it up. You could throw it on a pan with foil. I do recommend covering it. And even if you're using the Mason pot jar, after you do remove it from the oven, recommend just letting it sit for a little bit because there's some vapors flying in the air. Just let them settle back down into the bud because you don't want to lose those. When you open it up, you'll see it fly off. I'm still in hurries sometimes when I'm making infusions, so I'll crack it and throw it in. But I'm just trying to give some rules and tips for the road. Also, a common question I get is the smell. Yes, there will be a slight smell, but I have a little smell hack, which I'll just mention here too. So just screw on your lid. When it's done decarbing, take it outside, pop it open, add your oil, bring it back in. Even level up from that, cook some fresh garlic either in your infusion, or I like to roast garlic on the side of the infusion too. Just open that foil up in the room. Even if you did rosemary too, all those herbs kind of mix together and it's hard to almost pick out the cannabis. So a little decarb hack there if you're worried about smell or just don't like the smell. What else on the decarb front, my friends? I'm trying to think here. I feel like this is a pretty in-depth decarb, some questions I might have got asked before. When it pops out, the color should be a different color. It should have a nice like brown hue to it. Definitely shouldn't be burnt, but you should notice some sort of color variation after you're done decarbing. Yeah, super common question. I remember when I first heard the word decarboxylation, I first of all couldn't even like fucking say it. And then I'm like, dang, what is this? So then I've been working on the perfect decarb for years, over a decade. and that's part of the Mason pot. We've been dialing that decarb in, getting it right. But again, do you. If you do want to learn more about the Mason pot, go to masonpot.com, use code MasonPot24 and get 10% off your first unit. Open it up, scan that QR code, follow along, first batch guarantee. We guarantee you're gonna like it or your money back. And we also have a super cool referral program. I'm confident that you will be liking it. We've had a lot of good word of mouth already and some affiliates doing really well. So check it out. If it's not for you, all gravy, but I hope this video finds you well, and just know I'm here for content, whether you make a purchase or not. Thank you, guys.